I'm joined by Mary Wyllie, who wrote a story, An English Schoolgirl in Wartime, and it appeared in Vista, the Senior Center magazine. I'm so pleased to talk to you, Mary. I read your story, really enjoyed it, and I thought, wow, this is an interesting lady. So you were how old when war started in England?
6.
6, and so you would have been 10 when it was finished.
Yes.
Right, and you lived in a community that was under air attack?
I was in Red Hill, Surrey, which was 30 miles south of London. And they had all the barrage balloons up to bring the aircraft down. So some of them fell on us.
And in fact, your home was hit.
We were hit 3 days after the doodlebugs or B1s started.
So I had a friend who was he was raised in London during wartime, and he talked about them having a metal table that was in their backyard, and when the sirens would go off, the whole family would run outside and duck under this table. Is that
that sounds plausible?
So, but that wasn't a common thing, it sounds like.
I don't know. We took to our basements. We slept under tables. We slept under the stairs. You didn't think anything about it. It's just what you did.
Yeah, I was wondering, so if you were at home, you ducked downstairs. I think you said that you realized much later that maybe that wasn't the best idea.
Well, my grandfather's house had got a basement, and they had an agar cooker. If you know what an agar cooker is, it is a coke-fired stove that is hot all the time.
Oh.
And we slept under it.
So if it had been hit, then everything would have gone up. So much for staying safe in the basement.
We would have got burned, but we didn't.
Right. You were okay. Yeah. You told one story where your father ended up with glass in his pockets because a window blew out.
Well, that was totally amazing. Father had lain down to go to sleep, fully clothed, because you usually didn't get undressed. At least adults didn't. And the couch was underneath the window. He moved the couch just before he went to sleep over to the wall. Well, the window came in, and the glass from the window shot across the room and popped the mantelpiece on the other side, and he got glass in his coat pocket.
Wow. And he wasn't really badly hurt?
None of us were hurt.
That's really quite amazing.
There were 112. There were 1,200 houses damaged. Ours was the only house for blocks around that still had a roof.
Boy, oh boy, that's, yeah. You know, I was raised during the Cold War, and I remember one time I was 6 years old, and my parents, we were at the CNE in Toronto, and they were selling fallout shelters. And I remember the salesman going on and on about what would happen if a nuclear bomb fell. And I remember I was only 6 at the time, and I was so scared. I was so terrified, and I was for a long time, and I couldn't understand why my parents didn't buy one of these things, because darn it, we were all going to die. I was convinced that that was just going to happen any day. During all this going on, were you scared?
No. I lived in a family with a very firm faith in God, in a community that believed in prayer, in a country that prayed, and in a country that was unified. We did not have time to fight our neighbors. We had an object. We had a goal. That was to defeat the enemy. And we had a king. We had a leader who prayed. We had a leader whose family had the same rations as the rest of us. And we were not allowed more than 5 inches of water in our bath, because that is all the king had.
Leading by example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would have been the Queen Mum
Yes.
Queen Elizabeth II's mother, who we all remember. She lived to be, what, 103 or something like that? Yeah, yeah. I never heard that before. Interesting.
And many people know of the King's speech, put your hand in the hand of the man at the gate of the year. Queen Elizabeth, our present queen, was 10 at the time, and she gave her father that poem.
The other thing I found fascinating, tell me about gas masks.
They were pretty uninteresting kind of things. They were rubber with a filter on it, and you just always had to have them and put them on and make sure that they fitted, but we never had to use them.
So as a child, you went to school and you took a gas mask with you.
Yeah, with you.
And you said that it was decorated. It was like a child's size, but it was decorated?
The children's ones were made like Mickey Mouse's. The adult ones were, I suppose, like gas masks are today.
And adults could be stopped and asked to produce a gas mask.
Well, they would get fined if they were out with them. It'd be like being found in Loblaws without a mask.
Well, that's what it reminded me of in the story. That first thing that struck me was this is like today, where we have to wear a mask everywhere we go.
And you were asking whether I was frightened or not. Well, I think it was not just that my family had a strong faith in God and Christ, but the community had. And I think I mentioned there on Empire Day how we all stood on various parts of the empire and sang, "O God, our help in ages past, our hope for yet years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal hope." We had a strong hope.
And you always felt positive that this would end and you would all come out of it okay, and that the British Empire would prevail. Does that sound about right?
I suppose we did. I think it was just that we had a God who cared for us. The last verse of that verse, that hymn, I only just discovered is, "O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. Be thou our guide while troubles last, and our eternal home." Was whatever happened, we were safe.
Right, right. And you just knew you'd be okay. And talking about being okay, it seems that every newscast I hear is something about children, whether they're in school, whether they're doing remote learning, whether they're not doing any learning. And it seems that what I'm hearing is our children will never recover from this. This pandemic is going to ruin them for life. So you went through being bombs dropped on you, constant threat, and so you seem to have done okay. You seem to be quite normal. What were some of the changes that happened as a result? How did you grow up differently? Did you make different life decisions because of what you'd been through?
Not that I know of. Talking about children not being the same, C.S. Lewis has got an interesting thing that he wrote when the atom bomb was first started and everybody was quivering. He said, "Stop it." He said, "People have gone through the plague. They've gone through the Spanish flu. They've gone through World War I. Get over it."
Yeah, right.
And there was a Scottish crofter who was asked her favorite verse in scripture, and she said, "It came to pass." And somebody said, "Well, what good's that?" She said, "It didn't come to stay."
Eventually this will be over. And that's what we're starting to feel today, because I see so many parallels between your story and what we're going through now. I think you told me you started your story 2 years ago, but it would have just been a story. But this year, it's got a whole different meaning for us.
It has indeed.
Yeah.
Right down to the fact that we work together. And I'm sorry if I get irritated, but I do get irritated when I hear people saying to our politicians, well, why didn't you do? You should have done. And I'm screaming and saying, we'll deal with that when we dealt with a virus, but we don't have time for that now. Whether we should have or shouldn't have done doesn't make any difference. We're where we are.
We're where we are, and it's where we're going. That's the important, that we come out of this soon. I think we're all tired of this. The other thing that I remember in your story, you said that it was a peaceful time. You described it as being a peaceful time for you, and I found that interesting. It was wartime. How could that be peaceful? Can you tell me about that?
Well, that I found very interesting as I was thinking over sort of over my life. And I thought, that was probably the most peaceful time of my life. And then I discovered that this is common to more than 50% of Brits that were alive then. We didn't have time to fight our neighbour. We had an object. The object was to defeat the enemy. So we didn't have time to fight ourselves. Now, once the war was over, we got back to fighting again. We had a Labour government, and potatoes were rationed and bread was rationed. And there were snarky things going around. The potatoes in some of the shops were called Stacky's Wonders, because he was the Minister of Food. We got down to quibbling, but during the war we didn't have time to quibble. And it didn't matter if you were one person, like a child. You could pick conkers, which were horse chestnuts. So you picked them. Or you knitted socks. Or you worked in munitions factories. Or you were a firefighter. Everybody did what they could do. And you didn't worry about what other people were doing. And we'd be a lot better off at the moment if all of us realized that if we wore our masks and washed our hands, we could defeat this virus.
Well, I think they're finding that out more and more, that this is the whole thing. If we all did that, and the social distancing and all those other precautions, we could get over this a lot sooner, because it's pretty scary stuff. The numbers are pretty scary, and the after effects of this. So, yeah, we will get over it. And in the same way that World War II eventually ended, and it came out the other side. And I just found this so interesting, and I'm so happy you were able to join us today.